Hi, this is Mark Laughlin, speaking for the Ambidextrous Gunfighter. Have a look at, kind of revisit the SIG P365 XL. Now, I finally got myself one of these and mounted my Shield RMSc on top of it. Last year we did a review of this pistol and compared it a bit to the Springfield Armory Hellcat, and my sons finally convinced me I needed to get one of these for myself, if nothing else for magazine, family magazine compatibility. Now, when you go to buy a pistol, one of the things you want to look for, a lot of people go, oh, how does it feel in the hand? Well, there's some truth to that, but the main thing to focus on as far as the feel in the hand is bring it up, close your eyes, bring it up to where your arm is extended with the eyes closed, and open your eyes. Now, if the sights are pretty much level, you can figure that this is a pistol that fits your hand properly. At least to me, that's a good starting point. Now, the SIG P365 series pistols, and especially the XL, it does feel good in the hand. It feels really good in the hand. It's probably the best grip module, I guess you'd say, of any pistol I've ever picked up. Now, let's go back and if you've seen some of my previous videos on what I call the Applegate grip ratio, which just real quickly is the ratio of the length of the grip versus the width. So our Applegate grip ratio on the SIG P365, if I measure here at the main part of the grip like I do most pistols, it is 1.74 is the ratio of the length from front to back to thickness. However, if I measure up in here where your thumb and index finger fit, which is actually quite a bit narrower there, up in there it is 1.94 inches, which is actually an Applegate grip ratio very similar to the Mossberg MC2C. And a high grip ratio, that is where the length is pretty long compared to the width, makes it so that you can point shoot the pistol very easily. That is a medieval sword fighting. They often talked about, if you study the text on medieval sword fighting, they talk about a sword that you can pick up an index, that is by just from the feel of the handle know the direction of the blade. And it's the same thing with the pistol. You want to be able to pick it up and immediately know the direction of the muzzle based on your grip. Now, of course, for point shooting, that's how you point shoot, is you're bringing up, you're not using the sights, you're using the locked elbow, locked wrist, and pointing kind of with your index finger. And people can be pretty damn accurate just doing that. Now, another advantage of that when you go to the red dot sight is that with that ability to point shoot it, now when you go to the two-handed thumbs forward using your sights hold, you're already really close on target, so it's fast, makes it fast to find that dot in these little tiny micro RMRs. One of the cool things about the SIG P365 is how low or how high the web of the thumb gets up into the pistol with respect to the bore axis. And they've done that through some pretty terrific engineering. One is they've got the ejector down to where it's really low compared to almost every other pistol, and everything else is very compact. It's a terrific engineering feat. Now, the Hellcat, matches the 365 series with respect to rounds per size and weight, but it doesn't match that part where it gets that low bore axis. If you check the Springfield Armory, it's almost like a 1/4 or 3/8 of an inch taller from the top of your trigger guard to the top of the slide, and that's where the engineering of the SIG got this down as low as they could get it. And when you look inside the slide and you look inside the I guess the trigger group or receiver, if you want to call it that, it's all designed to get that as low as possible. So that's the one of the terrific achievements of the 365 series pistols. And when you grip it, it almost feels like the grip is designed to shove that web of the thumb up higher up in there, and it doesn't want to, it's like it's made so it doesn't want your hand to kind of slip down under recoil. It's not one to migrate down under recoil. It's like it just locks in there. It's as close as to getting like a handgun prosthetic that's made into your arm as you can find, I think. Now, another thing they did with the SIG 365 series is the safety plunger. And what they've done is they've created where they normally, the safety plunger on most pistols is depressed by the trigger bar with a nub on it dragging across that plunger, which can make for some, can affect the feel of the trigger group or the trigger. And this one uses, it translates that rearward motion of the trigger bar to vertical motion because it has this little pivot point, and the pivot comes up and transfers that horizontal motion to vertical motion, so it's pushing vertically on that safety plunger. And so theoretically that would make for a much better trigger. Something to keep in mind when reassembling your 365 series pistols is if the safety plunger pivot point here is up, that is not going to allow your slide to reassemble back on top of your grip frame. See, it's impacting right there, so pay attention to that. Just don't force it. So all you gotta do is just push that down, and now we're back in business. Now, my son's 365 XL pistols have a terrific trigger. This one maybe not quite as good. I think it's breaking in a little bit. Maybe it'll get better, but and it doesn't have the poing like my son's do. And I'm not sure if that has something to do with the fact that I do have the manual safety. Yeah, it was $20 cheaper, so saving money. And actually, since I'm carrying the Kel-Tec P17 a lot, which has a manual safety, I'm kind of getting used to where I'm back to the old 1911 days, where I'm getting accustomed to clicking that safety on and off manually. So, and I feel a little bit better since the 365 does not have the little trigger thingamajob, doohickey safety on it. So I'm okay with the manual safety, and it's pretty flush. It's not extending out too far, so it shouldn't dig into my side too much. Jasper, where are you going? Kitty, Jasper. Kitty's wandering off. And you look at it initially when you take the SIG 365 down, it looks like it has a full-length rail for the slide to run on. And in a way it kind of does structurally, but there's some raised portions of the rail that the slide's actually rising on. So it's, I don't know whether you call that a full-length rail or not for real, because it's two separate sections that the slide's riding on. Not a big deal. Now, when I get a pistol, I always fully disassemble them, clean them, and then lube them with Century Solutions Tough Glide. And when it came time to disassemble the striker, pull the striker out, that was kind of a pain in the ass. Maybe I've just gotten used to my Mossberg MC2C, which has a super easy way to take down, and which mainly is beneficial for cleaning the striker channel. So anyway, it's a little bit more difficult. Just maybe it'll get a little bit easier. There's this little plastic tab you had to shove over and get into a channel and hold in place while you're just juggling a lot of things under a little bit of pressure. And it's not easy, so it's not something you're going to want to take down a lot like you would maybe on an MC2C. You know, like mini pistols, this has the viewport on the chamber, so you can, you know, look in there and see if there's a brass cartridge in there. I think that's utterly dumb. That's something that just comes from, you know, stupid lawyers and committees. I mean, if you want to know the status, one, you always assume the status of the pistol is that it is loaded. But to check the status, to verify that you have a round in the chamber, the way I do it, and it depends on left or right hand. If I'm holding the pistol left-handed, I come underneath for a press check and pull the slide back like this. I really like the positioning of the slide serrations on this, especially compared to like the Mossberg MC2C, which had theirs a little bit too far forward, which is awkward. And so these are positioned really good for putting your hand right in front of the trigger guard, doing a press check. Now, the reason I do it underneath when doing left-handed, that positions my eyes to look down into the chamber, check the bullet face, magazine well, and see it from that direction. Now when I'm right-handed, you know, coming underneath like that, I don't have the angle, so I'm coming across the top. So I bring my hand across the top, do the press check again, so I can see into the chamber, bullet face, mag well. Now when it comes time to mount the RMSc, these micro red dot sights on here, the P365 uses these little tiny screws that come from inside the slide up that hold the stock iron sights on and the cover plate on there. And those screws, they're M3 screws that come from inside out instead of like on the Hellcat where the screws come from top down. And the Hellcat uses M4 screws, which are the size of screws that you will get that will come included with your, you know, your micro dot, whether it's a Shield RMSc, Shield SMSc, which is the polymer version, this is the aluminum frame version, or say a Sig Romeo, you know, Holosun, you know, those Chinese junk. Well, I won't call it junk. The Chinese optics are good, but man, if you buy Chinese optics, you are contributing to gain of function for Chinese weaponry. So don't do that. I mean, it's fine I'm okay with buying Chinese consumer goods, whatever they may be, I guess, if that's okay. I mean, they're cheaper and stuff. But when it comes to, when you're looking at a potential enemy of the United States, very likely an enemy, you know, maybe even a hot combat enemy, we do not want to help gain of function for any devices that have martial purpose. So don't buy the Chinese optics. Don't buy anything with martial purpose that comes from China. It can be fine if, I mean, this optic is from United Kingdom, so that's an ally. Of course, the SIG made in USA. Hellcat, I think is made in Croatia, so at least that's a NATO ally. But Chinese optics, don't do it. Okay, sorry for that little rant there. Anyway, so back to those screws that come in here, those M3 screws. When it comes time to mount this, you're going to have to get M3 screws to go into the top because they're not going to come, at least they didn't come with the shield sights. I think they kind of should either come with the shield sights or the SIG should include them with their pistols, since they're kind of doing a little bit differently than everyone else. And the M3 screws do fine. They do hold the sight down just fine. They're, you know, smaller. And I think the reason SIG did that, again, it was for that optimization for keeping this pistol compact and narrow. Okay, last year when we did our bloody hands testing, we found that the Mossberg MC2C had the best slide serrations when you had bloody hands. The SIG was very, very close, almost as good for slide serrations. A lot of the other pistols were very poor, Hellcat notably being one of them, the poor ones. But slide serrations on the SIG are surprisingly good. They don't look that aggressive, but they actually, with the slippery, bloody hands, you know, soapy hands, they did really well. And also, the SIG really excelled when it came time to shooting with bloody hands. Just that whole, I guess, low bore axis, this excellent grip frame. Every shooter found the 365 pistols very easy to shoot. They did also find the MC2C surprisingly easy to shoot as well. But the SIG on the shooting side did a little bit better. The MC1SC on the operating the slide with slippery hands, they found to be a little bit better. Now the mag release button is something I harped on during last year's review, and I will continue to harp on it. To me, this is, SIG got everything else so right on this pistol. The mag release, in my opinion, is where they got it wrong. And why do I say they got it wrong? One is it's not ambidextrous. It should have been a paddle magazine release. A paddle magazine release on this pistol would have been freaking awesome. And you've got room with the way their trigger works. See, when it's fired, it's well enough forward that you can still, if you had a paddle magazine release there, you could still get in and operate the paddle magazine release without having interference from the trigger. The reason the paddle magazine release also gives you that ability, one, to pinch operation, so you can maintain a firm grip on the pistol while shaking out a mag, and also it's fully ambidextrous. But the main thing is that it's, with your holster, it's going to be fully covered, and no matter how hard your pistol gets hit from the side, you bump into stuff or whatever, you're not going to end up with an accidentally disengaged magazine. Now, to say one of my favorite holsters, and this is for pretty much any pistol, is I always get a DeSantis Slim-Tuk holster. Now what I like is I have a complete review on these, but I do remove the pieces in there that allow you to have an adjustable cant. I just want to try to slim it up as much as possible. I like that it uses very thin Kydex. I think it's 0.060 Kydex, so pretty thin, and you know, nice hangers. Just very, very slim. They don't add hardly anything to the bulk of the pistol, so it fits nicely inside the waistband. You know, for inside the waistband holsters, you just don't need really thick Kydex, because you got your belt coming across it and you know, gripping it against your body. So it's mainly, you know, good coverage over the trigger guard, and yeah, just terrific little holsters and very affordable. Jasper! Kitty! Where are you going? Come on, Kitty! Now, the reason I don't like this button magazine release, and the Hellcat actually has definitely the better button magazine release for a button magazine release, but I don't like the SIG P365 series button mag, because trying to press it on this side, okay, I've got the button mounted on this pistol for right-handed use. It interferes with your grip on the pistol. It's protruding out enough when you push the button that it runs into interference with your middle finger. So what you have to do is, basically, in order to push the button on this side, you have to basically, you know, extend out your middle finger like that. And I noticed my kids last year, they were just automatically doing that. They come to change a magazine, they're automatically, you know, giving the middle finger to get clearance to operate that mag button. And so, you know, if you got an assailant and bang, 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 and it's time for a mag change, you have to give that guy the middle finger before you throw in another mag and put a few more rounds in him. So I guess there's that. But man, this really should have had paddle magazine release. Man, hopefully a future version. Maybe they can make a grip frame that's paddle magazine capable. Hopefully they could do that with their, you know, the standard magazines they currently use. Now, the other thing on this mag release is that it does stick up quite a bit, and it's not very well protected. So, you know, if it's up, inside the waistband, it's going to be easy for that to get bumped, or if it's mounted against your body, even pressed against your body, and cause that magazine to disengage. Now, something else that SIG did was they went with their own proprietary accessory rail, and for the most part, I don't really care, because I don't run lights on my pistol, and I don't run a laser. And mainly, the reason I don't run those, because they get in the way or limit your options for holsters for the pistol. But the fact that they ran with a proprietary rail means that I can't run my Mantis X10 Elite on here without putting an adapter on here. And so when I'm doing dry fire with the laser cartridge, I like to run my Mantis X10 Elite on here to do the, training feedback, detect when I'm doing that whole push, push forward. And honestly, the Mantis X10 will detect that push forward that you think, no, I'm not pushing forward, but it will detect when you are and you don't realize it. It'll detect it in ways that even a dedicated instructor who's watching you shoot and watching your pistol, they won't even see the push forward. It's so slight that the Mantis X10 is able to detect such slight movements in that area. So but anyway, I wish they had more of a conventional Picatinny's kind of style rail on here, so I could just throw my Mantis X10 on here without running an adapter on it. And that to me is why I don't like the proprietary rail. Now, if you are running the lights, I highly recommend that you check out a video on how to use a light on a pistol. And that is, because one thing I don't like about a light is that you'll be using it to identify a target, and I'm not too keen on muzzling family members while identifying targets. So I prefer to run a handheld light separately from my pistol and to identify targets. I would rather, take that little bit of increased risk that I don't have the muzzle up on target, and, take a little bit increased risk for myself so that I don't muzzle my family. But if you are going to run a light on here, the key thing is, and I'll include a link in the description, more details on this, is to reflect the light. That is, bounce it off the baseboard, muzzle down like that, and let that light reflect up off the baseboard, and then, identify targets, or a little bit more muzzle up and reflecting it off the ceiling. So anyway, that's the SIG P365 XL. I think it's an awesome pistol. I really am kind of getting to where I like the red dot sight. I did not think I would like that much, and it point shoots well. In fact, I find I point shoot this pistol really well, or one hand shoot it very well. Now, with the small pistol, I find that getting, normally I'm trying to get the thumbs forward and get that palm of, the swell of your palm into the grip there. And it's just with these little pistols, pretty much, my fingers are already coming pretty much all the way around the grip, because it's a small grip. And so there's not a lot of real estate left there to do that. So I find that for the most part, I can one-hand this pistol, whether it's point shooting or sighted shooting, and things just seem to work a little bit better for me. Now, if I go in with a two-handed hold, it's kind of, a little bit different than maybe I would do it on a larger pistol, where I'm trying to get that meat up against the side, this, real estate left there, and rather just coming around and making use of this lever. That wants to go that way, and so we got this lever here, so I'm using this hand more or less to intensify and strengthen, get some more energy or resistance on that lever. So at least that's my theory on how to do it. I just find one-handed shooting actually works really well. Two-handed, it's not the big advantage it is on some of the larger pistols. It's Mark Laughlin speaking for the Ambidextrous Gunfighter. Please like, share, and subscribe. Excellent pistol. Highly recommended. Thanks for watching.